Hey guys, welcome back to Music Talk with John. Today I'm continuing through my album collection. I am on Eric Clapton, and this will be all Eric Clapton's solo career things. This video will probably be mostly 70s and 80s. There's a lot to go through. He put out an album almost every year, so instead of having one big 1 hour video, decided to break it down into two. So anyway, focusing on Clapton, I have some albums, some of the releases. I don't have an album, so I'll be discussing on CD, kind of like what I did with the Beatles. And I'll be talking about this bad boy here. This just came out recently, a surprise, and a very pleasant surprise. So I will be talking about that also. So sit back and let's talk music. Okay, so like I said, we're talking about Eric Clapton, and the first thing I was going to show you, even though this isn't really part of this one because this is the 90s, but just had to show this off. This was a One Step by MoFi recording, pressing, and I haven't listened to it yet. You can see it's still in there. I might do an unboxing, I guess, and do a review of it, but really happy to get this. Everything that I have on the One Step label with the pressing just sounds really good. I have a Paul Simon, I have a Carole King, and these just really sound good. These are, if you're looking for good sound and you have a decent system, not a Crossley, a system that you can tell the difference between albums, these are definitely worth it to get. They just sound just great. The instruments, everything, they're just right there. I mean, they just sound awesome, nice and clear. So anyway, just had to show that off because it's funny, it just came out and I'm doing a Clapton episode, so had to get that. Anyway, so the first album we're going to talk about, this is Eric Clapton. So he's been through all the bands. You've been through the Yardbirds, you've been through John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, Cream, Blind Faith, not really having a lot of, having success with them, but I guess not working out personally because he didn't put out many albums with those guys. I think Blind Faith was a one shot. I don't even know if that was intended to go any further or not, but they had like what I heard, it was like a disastrous US tour, so they kind of parted ways after that. I'm not sure what happened there. John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, Eric Clapton did one album with them, and before that was the Yardbirds. I know he left them because he didn't like the commercial route that they were taking. He wanted to stay with the more traditional blues sound or whatever. So, and in Cream, I think they only had 3 albums, and there was a lot of egos and everything in that band. And so that led him to this point, and it's an interesting year for him because in 1970, when he put this album out, same year that Layla came out, Derek and the Dominoes, so two albums for him. And which is interesting, I read recently that Layla was not a commercial success in the beginning. He was pretty down about that, but he did make this album with, so Layla, Delaney, Bonnie and Friends is a band that Eric Clapton was working with in the 70s, kind of after the breakup of I think it was Blind Faith. Just after that, I think that was the last one. After that, he just kind of wanted to be a side man. He didn't want to be, because his popularity was growing. I don't know if he was comfortable with that. So he played with Delaney, Bonnie and Friends, and he was kind of like a side musician. I don't know if his name was on the bill or not, but he did a live album with them. So that's a cool album to check out. But the personnel from Delaney, Bonnie and Friends, 3 of the guys, you had, I always get the names mixed up, but it's Carl Rattle, Bob Whitlock, and Jim Gordon. I believe it was the 3 guys that he took from Delaney, Bonnie and Friends, and he recorded Layla with Derek and the Dominoes. So, and then you had, of course, Duane Allman come in and add the excellent guitar work on that. So anyway, so those 2 have a relationship, and then you have this album. Those 3 guys from Delaney, Bonnie and Friend, minus Duane Allman, were on this album, and this was actually produced by Delaney Bramlett, and actually featured Leon Russell on here too, which I love his work. Very soulful guy. I've mentioned him in the past. So this is Eric Clapton's first release as a solo artist, 1970. Album sounds good. It's in good condition. highlights on this, I would say, I like Slunky the way it starts. It's an instrumental song, upbeat, just comes right in, and it's a great way to beef up the album and make it really sound good from the get-go. Not a bad song on here, but this is where his first introduction, one of his many versions of After Midnight is on here. Blues Power, Bottle of Red Wine, and Let It Rain. So that's Eric Clapton, 1970, just hanging with his Fender Strat. And then after that, he kind of went through a downward spiral into heroin addiction for 3 years. Was a recluse for like a good year. Wasn't doing much musically, and you know, so he kind of went through that. And I don't know if he went to rehab, but he was rehabilitated to a point where he was able to perform again. And I don't know at what point Pete Townsend from The Who jumps in and says, hey, let's get Eric back on stage and let's put a whole concert together for him. So this was released. I don't have this on vinyl. I haven't found a good copy yet, actually. This was the first release of it, and then they did a remastered version of it, and they added, first one had 6 and the next one had 14 songs. So, and they cover everything from Derek and the Dominoes. I don't know if I see any Cream on here. Yeah, but there's Derek and the Dominoes and some Blind Faith on here. So you have Pete Townsend, I think Ron Wood was on there, I believe. Steve Winwood showed up. So it was a concert to kind of say, hey, Eric's back, you know, and here it is. So this came out in, like I said, 1973. So Rainbow Concert, Eric Clapton. And then 1974, got back into the studio, or 73, 74, got back into the studio. In 74, he released 461 Ocean Boulevard, and this was recorded, I think, down in Miami, Florida. And a great album. Starts off with Motherless Children, and all the way through into the song, last song, Mainline Florida. Just a great upbeat song. Love it all the way through. Highlights on this are Give Me Strength, Willie and the Hand Jive, I Shot the Sheriff, which a lot of people know. Let It Grow. I like every song on this album. This album's in really good shape. No pops, no dents, nothing. So there's your front and your back. I think it's one big, another continuous piece. Yeah, one big piece right there. So like I said, this one plays nicely, and great album, not a bad song on it in my opinion. So definitely one to check out, one of his go-to albums, I think. This is, I think, was the second album of his that I discovered after. There's one coming up that was the first one, and I first kind of, Clapton came onto my radar, and I think this is the second album that I got after that, and then my own addiction, Clapton addiction, began at that time. So it was all Clapton at that time. Next one was 1975, and this is another. It's a live recording. It's called EC Was Here. I don't have the vinyl. And it's this one here. It's a live album, 6 songs, and there's only 6 because I think it's just the longest length of the songs on here is 5 minutes and 18 seconds, and you have almost a 12-minute song, so they're longer versions, so they're more drawn out. Probably solo, well, not probably, solos and things like that. So this is kind of cool. Naughty. Eric Clapton being naughty. So anyway, this is a remastered. This CD sounds really good. He covers Have You Ever Loved a Woman, Presence of the Lord with the Blind Faith song, Driftin' Blues, Can't Find My Way Home, Ramblin' on My Mind, and Further On Up the Road. So this is a good album. I'm going to say that to every one of them because there's not one in here that I don't like. Then after that, there was 1975, There's One in Every Crowd. Now this one's interesting. I don't know if it was a trend or what it was. I know Dylan had a trilogy of religious albums, religious-based albums that he put out. And this was Clapton's. It was called There's One in Every Crowd. It starts right off with We've Been Told Jesus Is Coming. He does Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, but in a kind of cool Clapton way. And The Sky Is Crying is on here, which is a great album. Better Make It Through Today. And Opposites. Love that song too. So don't have this one on vinyl yet. Haven't really found a good copy of it. But what was interesting is I think around this time, Clapton was suffering with his addiction again. I don't remember if it was alcohol or heroin, but he was suffering with addiction again. He was difficult to work with from what I read. Hopefully my source is correct. And it was difficult to kind of put this album together. But it's not one of my top Clapton albums, but it does have highlights, like I said, with Opposites and The Sky is Crying. So it's not a bad album, but just one that never really one that I go, oh, I need to go play that album kind of thing. But when I put it on, I definitely enjoy it. So anyway, Eric Clapton, there's one in every crowd. Then we go to 1976, and we have No Reason to Cry. I always like this album cover with him sitting at a bar, and he had a broken pick over here. I believe on here you had the personnel of the band, so you had that kind of sound, that rough around the edges sound, live kind of sound, the vocals that sound like they're going to go out of tune at any minute, but they don't. That's on here, and it's an interesting album. You have Sign Language here with Bob Dylan, and that's a great combo with those two. And you have Hello Old Friend. I love that song because that's like, as I've gotten older, I appreciate that song because it's like coming across somebody you haven't seen in a long time and playing catch up. So that's what that's about. Double Trouble's on here, and Carnival I like a lot. And the interesting thing here is Black Summer Rain, this last song. Now this was recorded in the 70s, but this song sounds like a little ahead of its time in my opinion. You can check it out, let me know. But this sounds like it could have been in the 80s. It's different from the rest of it, but it fits. But definitely check that song out and the way that was put together. Even the way they begin it didn't seem like a typical 70s sound for me. But anyway, another good album by Clapton. No Reason to Cry. The next one is the one that sucked me into Clapton. The one a friend of mine gave me this, I think it was on, yeah, it had to have been cassette because CDs weren't even out yet. But he's like, hey, you gotta check this guy out. And it was Slow Hand, 1977. I just looked at the cover before I didn't know any of the songs on it at the time. I was into Billy Joel and pop music at that time. This is sort of my first kind of segue over to rock, you know, more of a rock guitar sound. And just love this album cover. And when you take it and open it up, you got Clapton playing his signature Fender Strat. I believe that's Blackie. I don't know if you can see it on there or not, but anyway, so Slow Hand. Everybody knows a lot of the tunes on this one. There he is with the inside. This is a remastered album and sounds awesome. Not a pop. Starts right off with the J.J. Cale song, Cocaine, and goes into Wonderful Tonight, which is played at everybody's wedding probably. Lay Down Sally's on here. I know that's a popular song. Mean Old Frisco I like, the core, and it ends with the instrumental Peaches and Diesel. That's the instrumental I love. I just love Eric Clapton's guitar work when he does an instrumental. So anyway, that's Slow Hand 77, the one that started it all for me pretty much. So that's the one. If I'm gonna do a shout out, I'll do a shout out to Gary now because he's the one that got me started on this. So okay, so I couldn't do this episode without showing this bad boy off. This was a gift from my wife about, I was going to say a couple of years ago, but time has passed. It's been about 18 to 20 years ago. This is a Eric Clapton signature Fender Stratocaster. And you can see up there it has the Eric Clapton signature and even has Blackie on there. Blackie was the guitar he played throughout the 70s. In fact, I'm looking over and the next album, I'm pretty sure he's holding Blackie right there. This is just a great guitar. Pickups are excellent. I'm not the greatest guitar player in the world by any means, but I love playing this thing. It makes you want to be a better guitar player when you hold this thing. So I always like the Fender Strat, the Fender products, if you couldn't tell. Anyway, so the next one here is Backless. That came out in 1978. And yeah, pretty sure that's Blackie there that he's holding. And it's another one of those. I guess that was popular to have the back and the front just kind of go right into each other for one big picture. And for some reason I always associated this with the live album, but it's not. I don't know if it's because of that. Don't know what to tell you. But this album's in good shape. Might replace this one with a better sound. I think this one had a couple pops on it. But it's good for right now, but I'll be looking for an upgrade probably on this album. Big stuff on this, Tulsa Time. and Promises. I know those are known songs by Clapton. And Walk Out in the Rain is a nice way that this album starts. If I Don't Be There by Morning also is a pretty popular live song from him. So anyway, so that was Clapton, Backless. The next album here is a, well, this came out later, but I put this in here now because this is Crossroads 2, but it covers 1974 to 1978, so that would come in between Backless and the next one, which is a live album. So this is the Crossroads 2 box set, and it, like I said, it covers from 74 to 78, and it's 4 CDs. Kept them in pretty good shape here. Had a nice booklet. I liked how they had the guitar on the CDs, and there's Blackie, and it gives you song information and pictures and things like that of Clapton. So I always liked the whole presentation. And this goes anywhere from it has some rarities on there. I know there's some songs that I hadn't heard before on any album or anything, but he covers, you know, the songs off the other albums. Lay Down Sally's on here, Cocaine's on here. So it's a good box set if you want to hear some good Clapton in the 70s. This is the one. I don't know if it's still in print or available. You probably find it at a record store used or something. But yeah, good collection right there. Next one is Just One Night, 1979. And so this is a live album. So that's Eric Clapton there. I believe he's holding Blackie again. I believe he's playing Blackie there. And this is a double album set. This one's in good shape. Both the albums here. I think it just had a couple pops on it, but definitely an enjoyable album. This one had a very popular version of Cocaine that played live, probably on the rock stations in the late 80s. I think this was recorded in Japan, and it was a cool guitar solo. It almost sounded like a laser or something in there to me. It was funky when the guitar solo started towards the end of the song. But this album, like I said, it's a 2-album set, covers his hits up to that point with Tulsa Time, Early in the Morning, Lay Down Sally, a nice version of Wonderful Tonight live, and Rambling on My Mind's on there, Cocaine, Further On Up the Road. There's another version of After Midnight. So After Midnight had several different lives, I think, because there was a beer commercial in the 80s, and Clapton, I don't know if he redid it for that or if it was already redone, because I think it showed up on his Crossroads box set of After Midnight. It had a more of a modern sound to it at the time of After Midnight. Started off with keyboards and things like that. So anyway, Just One Night, Eric Clapton, definitely another winner there. And this brings us into the 80s. So 81, Clapton released Another Ticket. This is one of my favorite albums by him. I was very happy when I came across this one. The album's in good shape. I have original sleeve on there. Has the credits on the back there. The album's good. I think there's just a couple pops on it, but sounds great. Yeah, I like all these songs. I'm just trying to look to see if there was like, I think I Can't Stand It was a hit. The song Another Ticket, again, was like different for me. It stood out from the album, but it fit. But listen to Another Ticket. It's this nice ballad, just really flowing, nice song. He has Blow Wind Blow on here, Floating Bridge, just a great album. I put it right up there in my top 10 of Clapton's. So definitely check this one out, Another Ticket, Eric Clapton. I don't know if a lot of people have even heard of this album. I don't have this next one on vinyl, but this is, there was a Timepieces. It's just basically a greatest hits. There was a 1 and 2. I don't have 2. I think it's Timepieces 2 was live in the 70s. That's what that one was. So this had all his hits up to that point. I Shot the Sheriff, After Midnight, Knocking on Heaven's Door, Wonderful Tonight, Layla, Cocaine, Lay Down Sally, Willie and Hand Jive, Promises, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and Let It Grow were all on here. And so CD's in good shape. So now that we're in the 80s, so after that would be Timepieces 2, but then this is another album definitely on my top for Eric Clapton, 1983. Money and Cigarettes. Man, I love this album. I love the artwork on the front with the melted guitar thing. That was good. This album's in really good condition. I believe I have my original sleeve on it. It's a little rough. Yeah. So, very cool. And the backside has the melted guitar. So I just like the whole theme of this. And just, I love this whole album. The Shape You're In is on here. Ain't Going Down, just great upbeat song. I've Got a Rock and Roll Heart. Man Overboard. And then he had 2 ballads right there on the beginning of side 2. Pretty Girl and Man in Love. And I was a sucker for ballads, so these are really good. But they're guitar-based ballads. They're not drenched in keyboards or anything like that. They're just really good songs. Slow Down Linda's on this. I think that had some popularity. And it ends with Crazy Country Hop, just a fun song at the end. Yeah, this Money and Cigarettes, definitely one of my probably my top 5 with Clapton, I would say. Almost, I think I need to do a ranking at this point with Clapton. Anyway, so Money and Cigarettes came out, and in 1985, this is definitely my top 5. So I guess I had something about Clapton in the 80s, but I believe this album was produced by Phil Collins, because they had done some work. Yep, where is it? Who produced it? Produced by Phil Collins, yep. So this is Behind the Sun. I forgot who did this painting. I knew at one point, but it had a cool painting there, painting on there. Eric Clapton's sound was changing here into the 80s, I believe. I think this, if I think about it, really got into the more of the Phil Collins with horns and things like that. But his sound was changing now that I kind of think about that. This album's in good shape. No pops on it. Just sounds good. Got a good picture of Clapton, and then you have your song credits there. The big stuff on this, I know he had, I don't know if they were hits, but they were known songs. Definitely not the original sleeve. Duck Records. But She's Waiting is on here. If you haven't heard that, put that on. Just big dynamic sound. You can see where Eric Clapton's sound was changing here. See What Love Can Do, Same Old Blues. Knock on Wood is on here. I love the very last song. It's very sad, about a guy walking away from his wife's funeral, I think, because it's sad, but what a song. Behind the Sun, the actual song. Just Like a Prisoner is a song that kicks you and doesn't give up. Never Make You Cry is a really mellow song, but just really sweet sounding song. And Can't Forget Forever Man too, because I think that was pretty popular, Forever Man. So Eric Clapton, Behind the Sun. If you don't have it, get it. Okay, so the next album I have here, this is from 1986. It had a big hit on it. It's In the Way That You Use It. This is August by Eric Clapton. And more of an 80s sound to it on parts, but you know, Clapton's interesting. You can tell it's from the 80s, but it's not drenched in 80s, I guess you could say. Definitely more of his, I say commercial sound. I don't know. It's not even commercial sound, but it's definitely different than his other stuff. The production's a little bit different. So this was 86. It was named after the month that either, can't remember if it was the month his child was born or he knew he was going to be born, Connor Clapton. And unfortunately we know that the tragedy of Connor Clapton in New York. So, but this album was named after that birth month. It was changed from something else. I'm not sure what the original name was, but it's a good album. I played a lot of it in the 80s, and I still enjoy it. It's definitely not outdated. It has, I still like It's in the Way That You Use It. It's just a good upbeat song. It has the song Behind the Mask on it. That has a lot of keyboards in it. That's where you can tell it's from the 80s. But if you listen to it, to me, it doesn't sound like it's drenched in 80s. Holy Mother is on here. Nice song about asking for forgiveness or things like that, I believe. Yeah, I just like all this. There was one other thing I was going to mention. It was a promo copy that I got. Probably not the best sounding one. It's not a bad sounding album, but I think there might be better pressings out there, but I just haven't found them, because this is the only one I've really run across in good shape. This one's good, 1 or 2 pops, no big deal. And I just read it's actually produced by Phil Collins, who actually did that. So these are back-to-back productions here of Behind the Sun in August. But yeah, this is a good album. Definitely like it. One that I used to play just over and over and over again too, with all these other ones. So so then you had August, and then there's a soundtrack that came out for a movie, probably not a well-known movie, I don't even know if it hit the theaters, but it was Mickey Rourke, Homeboy, where he played a boxer. And this was right around the time Mickey Rourke, I think, started doing lightweight boxing or something like that. I believe he was, I remember being a Mickey Rourke fan in the 80s. I was watching a lot of his movies, and I think there was a time I heard a rumor that he was going to be in Clearwater or something, boxing, and I could never find out where this match was. I don't know if it even ever happened, but anyway, it was the soundtrack for that movie, a picture of Clapton and Mickey Rourke there. Love this soundtrack. I don't usually get into soundtracks just because it's like repetitive or whatever, but even the songs and the melody that he kind of reuses and changes for different scenes in a movie, it's just great. I mean, I just love the guitar work. There's it's just very sweet in some parts. You can tell it's for like a romantic scene, but it's really, really good. Yeah, Ruby's Loft. He does two versions of Dixie on here. One's really heavy distortion, and then he has one, I think, with just him and Nathan East on bass. So, and Bike Ride's a fun song. So this, I love this soundtrack. You can't find it anywhere. You're not going to find this. It's just not out there. So this is kind of like a jewel for me because I love the music on it, and I know it's just not available pretty much. Then you had the Crossroads box set that covered Clapton's career from 63 to 87. And it covered everything from the beginning of with the Yardbirds. He was in one band before the Yardbirds, and that was the Roosters, but I don't think they recorded anything. I think the Yardbirds was where he did his first recordings on 5 Live Yardbirds, and he did Yardbirds with Sonny Boy Williams. So covered, yeah, Yardbirds to John Mayall with the Blues Breakers, Cream, Blind Faith, there's Derek and the Dominoes, and then it goes into his solo career. This had a couple songs on here. I didn't realize there's a song here I still love. Heaven is One Step Away. It's definitely more 80s sounding, and I didn't realize it was on the Back to the Future soundtrack. I had no idea. But that fit right in there with She's Waiting, which was off of Behind the Sun. And then, yeah, Want to Make Love to You Too is a song I really like too. I don't know where that came from, but he put it on here. And then this was his, I believe this is the version here of After Midnight that ended up in the beer commercials and had a different sound to it. So, yeah, definitely a cool thing if you're into Clapton to have. So, comes with the booklet. It has a sheet in there where it has all the credits and everything, and then you have your history of Clapton here, basically, with pictures of the different bands. Clapton with Cream and Derek and the Dominoes. So a very cool book. Kept it in pretty good shape, I think. Staples are still intact, so we're in good shape. And then it was 4 CDs. 4 CD set, and they're all in good shape. This is probably the one I played the most, disc 4, just because it was, I don't know if it was the 80s music or what, I just related to it a little bit more. I liked all of his stuff, but 80s just attracted me more, I guess you could say, when I was listening to this box set. So that one definitely was out more than the rest of them. And then the last one we have here, the last album he did in the 80s, great way to kick off those years, was Journeyman, 1989. Great album. This started off with Pretending, which got a lot of radio play. I know the video was on MTV. When MTV played videos, it was playing on there a lot. He does Ray Charles, the cover of Ray Charles' Hard Times. He does Hound Dog, which I think that was Big Mama Thornton who originally wrote that, so it's more like her version, not the Elvis version. I think this is much cooler than the Elvis version myself. Before You Accuse Me is on here, and that's a song he did with Robert Cray, the blues guitarist. And what I like about that is they took the, show you this, they took the 2 different guitars. Clapton was one side, Robert Cray was on the other side, and they traded off guitar solos through the song, so it's really cool. You can hear their 2 different styles. So that was and there's the inside. They made a gatefold out of it. This is a reissue. They made it into a 2 album set, but this one sounds really good. I mean, this is clean, sounds nice, all the instruments are clear, so definitely one of my top 10s. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned before, but it seems like I have 20 top 10s, so I don't know if I should do a Clapton ranking. And he's one of those artists I don't know if I could do that with. So anyway, so that's the Clapton stuff. So thank you for watching, and as you can see, there's a lot of time just going through that first 20 years of his career. So that's why we'll do another video just hitting that from the 90s on. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe button, comment. I love it when you guys comment. I've had some interaction lately and I'm enjoying that, learning about you guys, so that's really cool. So anyway, hit those buttons, and hope you enjoyed the video, and until then, enjoy listening to your music. Take care. Bye.